My dear brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when the heart goes through pain that should have destroyed it, yet somehow it did not. You were hurt, disappointed, maybe even shaken to your core, but you are still standing. And that leaves you confused because you expected this trial to break you, yet it did not. You quietly ask yourself, why am I still holding on? Today, I want to remind you of something very important, because not every hardship is meant to damage you. Some hardships are sent to protect your heart from becoming something it was never meant to be. And if you listen carefully, you will begin to recognize why this pain stopped exactly where it did. Distance is not loss, it is mercy. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the earliest signs that a heart is being protected is when it begins to step back from what once controlled it. You notice that certain situations no longer shake you the way they used to. Certain people no longer disturb your peace the way they once did. This does not mean your heart became cold, and it does not mean you stopped caring. It means your heart is being guarded from attachment that was slowly exhausting you without you realizing it. Sometimes we believe closeness is always good, but that is not true. There are connections that drain the heart, conversations that disturb the soul, and attachments that quietly weaken us. When distance enters your life without bitterness, without hatred, and without arrogance, it is not abandonment, it is mercy. Your heart is being taught how to breathe again. Allah reminds us in the Quran that true calm and stability are not found in people or situations, but in something far deeper. Allah says that hearts find rest through remembrance. This verse teaches us that when the heart begins to detach from what once overwhelmed it, it is not because something valuable was lost, but because something more stable is being restored. You may feel confused by this change. You may wonder why your emotions are quieter, why your reactions are softer, and why your heart no longer chases what it once begged for. Understand this carefully. A heart that is being protected is slowly being removed from emotional harm before the harm becomes permanent. What feels like distance today may be the very thing that saves you tomorrow. Not every door closing is rejection. Not every silence is neglect. Sometimes protection arrives quietly, disguised as emotional distance, so the heart can be preserved without being shattered. If you feel this happening within you, do not fight it. Your heart is not becoming weaker, it is becoming safer. Pain that does not turn you bitter is divine protection. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a type of pain that destroys people, and there is a type of pain that passes through the heart without corrupting it. One of the strongest signs that your heart is being protected is that despite everything you have suffered, you have not become bitter. You were hurt, perhaps deeply, yet your heart did not turn dark. You did not become cruel. You did not lose your compassion. And this is not something small. This is a sign of divine care. Normally, when people are tested, their hearts harden. They begin to mistrust everyone. They carry anger inside their chests. They speak harshly. They look at the world through the lens of pain. But look at yourself carefully. You may be tired. You may be wounded. But you still want goodness. You still feel mercy. You still wish well even after being hurt. This does not happen by accident. A heart left unprotected does not survive pain like this. Allah reminds us in the Quran that hardships are not sent to crush the believer, but to shape them. Allah tells us that He does not place a burden on a soul beyond what it can bear. This verse is not only about physical ability, it is about emotional capacity as well. The reason you were able to carry this pain without becoming someone you hate is because Allah measured the test and protected your heart within it. Sometimes you wonder why the pain stays, why the memory returns, why the wound still aches. Understand this clearly. Pain remaining does not mean damage is increasing. Sometimes pain remains while the heart is being preserved underneath it. Like fire that refines gold without destroying it, this pain is purifying without poisoning. Your heart is being cleansed, not corrupted. And notice something else. Even in your sadness, you still turn inward instead of outward. You reflect instead of explode. You grow quieter instead of louder. This is not weakness. This is strength guided by protection. A heart that was left alone would have lashed out. A heart that is being protected learns restraint, patience and softness even while hurting. So if you ever look at yourself and wonder, why didn't this turn me into someone harsh? Know that this itself is the answer. Your heart is being guarded from spiritual damage that lasts longer than emotional pain. And that protection is more valuable than immediate comfort, even if you only understand it later. When people leave, your heart may be saved. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most painful experiences in life is not being hurt, but being left. It is when people you trusted change, when those you expected to stand with you slowly disappear, and when relationships you invested in no longer feel safe. This type of pain sits deep in the heart because it makes you question your worth, your effort, and sometimes even your sincerity. But listen carefully, because one of the strongest signs that a heart is being protected is when certain people are removed before they cause permanent damage. We often believe that loss means failure, but this is not always true. Sometimes Allah removes people not because you are unworthy of love, but because your heart is too valuable to be continuously wounded. Some connections drain your emotional strength slowly, so slowly that you do not even realize how much of yourself you are losing. When those connections end, it feels like punishment, but in reality it is preservation. Allah reminds us in the Quran that He knows what we do not know, and that we may dislike something while it is actually good for us. This verse teaches us a powerful truth. Our understanding is limited, but Allah's wisdom is complete. The heart may grieve what was lost, but it does not yet see what was prevented. What you call heartbreak today may be Allah protecting you from a future version of pain that would have been far more destructive. Notice how this removal happens. It is rarely loud, it is rarely dramatic. Often it is slow distance, repeated disappointment, or a quiet realization that the relationship no longer brings peace. This is not coincidence. A protected heart is gently guided away before it becomes emotionally dependent, spiritually weakened, or completely exhausted. Allah does not always remove people suddenly, but He always removes them at the right time. And look at yourself now. Even though you were hurt, you did not lose your ability to trust Allah. Even though people disappointed you, you did not abandon your values. Even though relationships ended, your heart still seeks sincerity, not revenge. This is not because you are weak. It is because your heart is being shielded from becoming hard, resentful, and spiritually damaged. Sometimes we beg Allah to bring people back, not realizing that Allah is answering a deeper prayer by keeping them away. The heart thinks closeness will heal it, but Allah knows that distance is what will save it. And when Allah protects the heart in this way, He replaces harmful attachment with inner strength, clarity, and eventually peace. So if people walked away from you, or if your heart was forced to let go even when it was painful, do not rush to label it as loss. Ask yourself instead what Allah may have protected you from. Because a heart that survives abandonment without losing faith is a heart that is being carefully guarded even when it does not feel like it at the moment. Silence, solitude, and the quiet strength of a protected heart. There comes a stage in life when the heart no longer reacts the way it used to. You become quieter, not because you have nothing to say, but because you have learned that not every feeling needs to be explained. You speak less, not because you are weak, but because your heart has realized that peace is more valuable than being understood. This phase often feels lonely, and many people misunderstand it, but in reality, this silence is one of the strongest signs that your heart is being protected. There was a time when you felt the need to explain yourself to everyone. You wanted people to understand your intentions, your pain, your choices, and your silence. You felt restless when you were misunderstood, and you tried repeatedly to clarify what was in your heart. But now, something has changed. You no longer chase explanations. You no longer beg for validation. You no longer feel the need to convince people of your sincerity. This is not because you stopped caring. It is because your heart has been shielded from emotional exhaustion. A heart that is not protected feels compelled to explain itself constantly. It feels anxious when misunderstood. It feels disturbed when people form the wrong opinions. But a protected heart slowly learns that not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Some people only see a moment of your life, while Allah sees the entire story. And when this understanding settles into the heart, silence becomes strength instead of weakness. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness drains the heart, but solitude strengthens it. When your heart is being protected, Allah creates moments where you are alone with your thoughts, alone with your conscience, and alone with your reflection. At first, this feels uncomfortable. The noise fades, the distractions disappear, and you are left with yourself. But this is where healing begins. This is where the heart learns to sit with pain without running from it. This is where the heart grows without external approval. Allah reminds us in the Quran that He is closer to us than we can imagine. This verse teaches us that even when the world feels distant, even when people feel absent, we are never truly alone. When the heart realizes this, it stops depending on constant human reassurance and starts finding stability in something deeper. Silence then becomes a place of safety rather than fear. Notice how this silence changes your behavior. You become slower to react. You think before you speak. You choose your words carefully. You walk away from arguments that once consumed your energy. You no longer feel the urge to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is not emotional shutdown. This is emotional maturity shaped by protection. Many people confuse silence with defeat. They think that if you are quiet, you have lost. But in reality, silence often comes after growth. It comes when the heart understands that responding to everything is not strength. Preserving peace is strength. And a heart that chooses peace over constant reaction is a heart that is being carefully guarded. You also begin to notice that you are more selective with your energy. You no longer allow everyone access to your emotions. You no longer share your struggles with people who cannot carry them responsibly. You no longer open your heart to every voice that speaks. This selectiveness is not arrogance, it is wisdom. A protected heart learns boundaries not to isolate itself, but to preserve itself. At this stage, Allah teaches you the power of inner strength. You learn to stand alone without feeling abandoned. You learn to trust your own reflection without needing applause. You learn to sit with unanswered questions without panic. This is a rare strength. And it does not come easily. It is built through trials, disappointments, and moments where the heart was forced to mature. Sometimes you wonder why life feels quieter now, why there are fewer people, why conversations are shorter, why your circle has become smaller. Understand this carefully. Not everything that becomes smaller is becoming weaker. Sometimes Allah reduces noise so the heart can hear what truly matters. Sometimes Allah removes distractions so the heart can reconnect with its purpose. This is also the stage where you stop oversharing your pain. You realize that not everyone deserves access to your wounds. You learn that healing does not require an audience. Some of the most powerful growth happens privately, where only Allah sees it. And when the heart reaches this level of privacy, it is being protected from unnecessary judgment, comparison, and emotional harm. You may feel misunderstood during this phase. People may say you have changed. They may say you are distant, quiet, or different, but they do not see the storms your heart survived. They do not see the strength it took to remain soft instead of becoming bitter. And they do not see the protection that saved your heart from collapsing. My dear brothers and sisters, silence is not emptiness. Solitude is not abandonment. Quietness is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the language of a heart that has been preserved through hardship. Sometimes solitude is the classroom where Allah strengthens the heart for what lies ahead. And sometimes the quiet phase of life is not a punishment but preparation. If you are in this stage, do not rush to escape it. Do not label it as sadness too quickly. Sit with it, learn from it, allow your heart to rest in it. Because a heart that can remain calm in silence, strong in solitude, and patient without explanation is a heart that is being deeply protected. Tears that cleanse the heart, not destroy it. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a type of crying that breaks a person, and there is a type of crying that quietly heals them. One of the strongest signs that your heart is being protected is not that you never cry, but that when you do, your tears do not ruin you. They do not leave you empty. They do not push you into despair. Instead, after the tears fall, something inside you feels lighter, calmer, and more grounded. This is not weakness. This is a sign that the heart is being cared for. Many people cry and collapse. They cry and sink deeper into hopelessness. They cry and feel more lost than before. But look closely at yourself. You cry, yet you still wake up the next day. You cry, yet you still try. You cry, yet you still believe there is meaning beyond this pain. That is not ordinary strength. That is protection working quietly within the heart. Allah reminds us in the Quran that after difficulty comes ease. This verse is not only about situations changing on the outside, it is also about what happens within the heart. Ease does not always arrive by removing the pain immediately. Sometimes ease arrives by giving the heart the ability to release what it cannot carry anymore. Tears then become a doorway to relief, not a sign of defeat. Notice how your tears behave now compared to before. There was a time when crying made your chest tighter, your thoughts darker, and your heart heavier. But now, even though the pain still exists, crying brings a strange calm. It empties the heart instead of overwhelming it. This is a sign that your heart is no longer storing pain in destructive ways. It is learning how to let pain pass through without settling permanently. A protected heart does not deny pain, it allows it. It does not pretend to be strong, it allows itself to feel. And this is important because hearts that are forced to be strong without release eventually shatter. But hearts that are allowed to cry in sincerity are strengthened, not weakened. Allah did not create tears as a punishment. He created them as a mercy, a release valve for hearts carrying more than words can express. Sometimes you cry without knowing exactly why. The pain feels older than the moment you are in. The tears carry memories, disappointments, and fears that you never spoke about. Do not rush to stop those tears. This is not chaos. This is cleansing. A heart that is being protected is being emptied of what would have hardened it over time. You may notice that after crying, you are more gentle with others, more patient, more aware of your own limits. This softness is not fragility, it is emotional health. Pain that is released through tears does not turn into anger, it does not turn into resentment, it does not turn into bitterness. Instead, it leaves space for wisdom, empathy, and quiet strength to grow. Many people are afraid of tears because they associate them with losing control. But the truth is, some of the strongest hearts are the ones that know when to cry and when to stand firm. Your tears are not proof that you are losing the battle. They are proof that you are still alive inside, still connected to your conscience, still capable of feeling without becoming broken. There is also something deeply spiritual about these moments. When the heart cries sincerely, it often turns inward. It reflects, it remembers Allah, it softens toward what truly matters. This is why protected hearts cry in a way that brings them closer to meaning, not farther from it. The pain does not distract them from faith, it refines it. My dear brothers and sisters, if your tears do not destroy you, if they do not turn you bitter, if they do not make you lose hope, then understand this clearly. Your heart is being guarded. You are being allowed to feel without being allowed to fall apart. That balance does not come from strength alone. It comes from care beyond what you can see. So do not be ashamed of your tears. Do not rush to hide them. Do not judge yourself for them. Sometimes the greatest mercy is not the absence of pain, but the ability to release it safely. And a heart that can cry, heal, and still move forward is a heart that is being deeply protected. Letting go without losing trust. One of the greatest miracles that can happen to a heart is not that it gets everything it wants, but that it learns how to let go without losing trust. This is not easy. Letting go hurts. It feels unnatural. It feels like surrendering something that once gave meaning, comfort, or hope. But when a heart is being protected, Allah teaches it how to release without collapsing, how to loosen its grip without losing its balance, and how to surrender outcomes without surrendering faith. Many people let go in anger. They let go because they are exhausted, bitter, or defeated. But a protected heart lets go differently. It lets go with pain, yes, but also with dignity. It lets go while still believing that what is written ahead is better than what was lost behind. This is not weakness. This is spiritual strength being formed through experience. At some point in life, you realize that holding on is no longer healing you. You realize that forcing outcomes is not bringing peace. You realize that chasing people, answers, or closure is draining what little strength your heart has left. And in that moment, something inside you changes. You stop fighting reality. You stop begging for things to return to how they were. You stop demanding explanations that were never meant to be given. This shift is not resignation, it is protection. Allah reminds us in the Quran that perhaps we love something while it is bad for us, and perhaps we dislike something while it is good for us, and that Allah knows while we do not know. This verse is not meant to dismiss pain. It is meant to anchor the heart when understanding fails. It teaches us that the heart does not need to see the full picture in order to be safe. It only needs to trust the one who sees everything. When a heart is not protected, letting go feels like falling into darkness. It feels like abandonment. It feels like losing control completely. But when a heart is being protected, letting go feels different. It still hurts, but there is a quiet reassurance underneath the pain, a sense that although something ended, you are not lost. Although something slipped away, you are not falling apart. That quiet reassurance is not coming from circumstances. It is coming from divine care. Notice how your heart behaves now compared to before. There was a time when you needed certainty, you needed answers, you needed reassurance from people, you needed guarantees. But now, even without clear answers, you are still breathing, you are still standing, you are still trying. This is not because you suddenly became strong. It is because your heart is learning how to lean on trust instead of control. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending something did not matter. It does not mean denying the pain. Letting go means accepting that what happened has already happened and that holding on will not change it. A protected heart understands this without becoming hopeless. It accepts reality without surrendering belief. It releases the past without disconnecting from purpose. Sometimes letting go involves people. Other times it involves dreams, expectations, or timelines you were deeply attached to. You planned your life one way and it unfolded another. You expected certain outcomes and they never arrived. This type of disappointment can destroy hearts if they are left unprotected. But a protected heart learns how to grieve what did not happen while still trusting that what will happen carries wisdom. There is also a profound peace that comes with this stage. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not erase sadness completely, but it gives the heart stability. You stop waking up with panic. You stop replaying conversations endlessly. You stop asking the same painful questions. You begin to accept silence where answers never came. This peace is not coincidence. It is the result of a heart that has been taught how to release what it cannot control. You also notice that your prayers change. You no longer pray demanding specific outcomes. You pray for strength, clarity, and acceptance. You pray for guidance rather than guarantees. You pray for peace rather than control. This transformation in prayer is one of the clearest signs that the heart is being protected. Because when prayers mature, hearts mature with them. Some people fear letting go because they think it means losing hope. But the opposite is true. Letting go of what you cannot control allows hope to attach itself to something stronger. A protected heart does not attach hope to people, plans, or circumstances. It attaches hope to Allah. And hope anchored in Allah does not collapse when circumstances change. You may still feel waves of pain. Memories may return. Emotions may resurface. This does not mean you failed at letting go. Healing is not linear. A protected heart does not become numb. It becomes resilient. It feels without drowning. It remembers without reopening wounds fully. It reflects without breaking. My dear brothers and sisters, if you are at a stage where you are slowly learning how to release what once defined you, understand that this is not the end of your story. This is the strengthening of your foundation. A heart that can let go without losing trust is a heart that can walk through future tests without being destroyed by them. Not everyone reaches this stage. Some hearts remain trapped in resistance, replaying the same pain for years. But if Allah has guided your heart to this point, where you can release and still believe, then your heart is being protected at a level many never experience. So do not rush yourself, do not judge your pace, do not compare your healing to others. Letting go is not about speed, it is about sincerity. And a sincere heart that trusts Allah while releasing what hurts is a heart that is being prepared for peace that lasts longer than the pain ever did. Pause for a moment and reflect on one simple but powerful reality. After everything you have been through, after all the disappointment, confusion, loss, and unanswered questions, you are still here. You are still breathing. You are still believing. You are still searching for meaning instead of sinking into despair. This alone is a sign that your heart was never meant to break, even when life tried to pressure it in every possible way. Many people go through hardship, but not everyone survives it with their faith intact. Not everyone comes out of pain, still hoping, still praying, still trusting that there is wisdom behind what they do not understand. If your heart had been left unprotected, this journey would have hardened you. It would have turned you cold. It would have made you angry at the world and distant from meaning. But look at yourself carefully. You may be wounded, but you are not destroyed. You may be tired, but you are not lost. This is not coincidence. This is protection unfolding slowly over time. Allah reminds us in the Quran that He supports those who remain patient and mindful, and that He never abandons those who place their trust in Him. This verse teaches us that endurance itself is a gift. The ability to continue without giving up is not something the heart produces on its own. It is something that is sustained quietly through divine care that operates even when we are unaware of it. There were moments when you thought this pain would finish you. Moments when the weight in your chest felt unbearable. Moments when you questioned whether you had the strength to take another step forward. Yet each time you somehow found yourself standing again. You may not know how, you may not know why, but the fact that you are here today means your heart was carried through the storm, not thrown into it alone. A protected heart does not escape pain. It moves through it with purpose. It does not avoid hardship. It learns from it. And most importantly, it does not lose itself in the process. You did not become someone you despise. You did not abandon your values. You did not lose your compassion. This is not accidental. Many hearts break not because the pain is too much, but because they are left without guidance within it. Your heart was not left alone. Sometimes protection looks like survival rather than success. You may look at others and feel like they moved ahead while you were stuck. You may feel like your journey has been slower, heavier, or lonelier. But survival with faith is greater than progress without peace. A heart that survives intact is worth more than a life that looks successful on the outside but is empty within. There is also something else you must understand. The heart that has been protected through hardship is being prepared for responsibility. Hearts that remain soft after pain are trusted with deeper wisdom. Hearts that remain patient after disappointment are prepared to carry blessings without arrogance. Hearts that survive trials without bitterness are ready to guide others without judgment. This is why your journey unfolded the way it did. You were not delayed because you were forgotten. You were slowed down because something inside you needed to be strengthened before the next chapter could begin. You were not denied because you were unworthy. You were protected because what you were carrying could not yet handle what was ahead. A heart that survives pressure without cracking is a heart